Ho, ho, ho! The Bureau Boys is an improvised detective serial. Every Monday, the Bureau Boys solve crimes based on clues sent in by their elf informants.
That's you. Go to thebureauboys.com to submit your clues, elf informant.
When we last left the Bureau Boys, they were in the Hill Valley Orphanage. 2 orderlies had just been swallowed up by the stairs in the orphanage, and the Bureau Boys were running toward a laundry chute that had been pointed out to them by one of the orphans/elves?
I believe, narrator, that orphan was indeed an elf. Pointy ears, soft, smooth skin. I won't dwell. Anyway, the boys opened that laundry chute and hopped in head first with their red bag of tools trailing behind them.
The Bureau Boys tumbled top over tail, over and over and over and over. It seemed that they would be falling for the rest of their lives, which in Detective Riley's case is very short, and in Detective Potter's case is very long because he only eats egg whites.
As the boys fell deeper, the tunnel became wider, and they seemed to be suspended in the air, floating down, and floating up towards them were spinning chairs and old clocks and cinnamon sticks. The boys were falling, but gently now, slowly.
The boys each landed their little butts in one of the chairs. The chairs gently lowered them down to the floor. I would say that they were in another cavern, but it was really more of a ballroom, a big open ballroom.
The ballroom was lit by candles only. Small, short candles lining the outside of the ballroom.
To give it the titular ballroom, those candles were reflecting off of a disco ball, a large one suspended from the ceiling in the middle of the room.
On one side of the room was a string of disheveled and broken down poor little boys, and on the other side of the ballroom were equally disheveled, broken down poor little girls, in tattered clothing all, staring at one another from across the great expanse of the ballroom, kind of like a
cotillion. Fortunately, both the tattered little boys and the tattered little girls were completely silent.
In fact, the more horrifying detail is that it wasn't even clear they had mouths at all.
The Bureau Boys' chairs descended to a dais that had been set up in the ballroom. A slow clapping emerged from the darkness. The Bureau Boys turned to face the slow clap, and a dark figure emerged from the disco ball glows and the candlelight.
Ooh, ooh, ooh. Well, what have we here? 2 strapping young lads in my dungeon. In my basement of my orphanage.
What? Your orphanage?
Detective Potter, I think this is Mrs. Claus. You know, who runs the orphanage?
Yeah, I know Mrs. Claus, Detective Riley. I've known her since I was 2 years old. Her husband always would come and drop a... You know what? Never mind, Detective Riley.
My husband, eh? My husband?
With that, Mrs. Claus points to the wall. The far wall that doesn't have little orphans attached to it. The Bureau Boys look over and see a crucified Santa Claus.
Okay, Mrs. Claus, I swear I did not crucify him. We've only ever crucified a gym teacher.
I also can swear that I also did not crucify...
I know that, boys. Of course you didn't crucify him. 'Twas I. 'Twas the night before Christmas when I crucified my husband, Santa.
What?
But Christmas! This could end it all!
Detective Riley, quick sidebar.
Of course. We're sitting right next to each other. Yes.
Do you think this is why we didn't get any presents last year?
Oh my god, he's been dead for an entire year.
Mrs. Claus, I assume that is your name. Well, of course it's my name, boys. Mrs. Claus, when did you crucify your husband?
Ho, 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 as Mrs. Claus laughs giddily with an insane look in her eyes. The flames of the candles grow higher and deeper and brighter.
The flames engulf both the orphans on the left side of the room and on the right side of the room, so the Bureau Boys will never have a chance to find out if they could make any sound.
For their bodies burned pretty quickly, probably because they were
Filled with sugar?
housed with kerosene. Yep.
Oh my god! Oh my god! What?
They
Mrs.
didn't even
Claus-
make a sound. You know, it's like Silent Night. This isn't a holy night, though.
This is an unholy night, Detective Riley. Is it even night? I don't even know. We were falling down that shaft for so long, I can't even tell what day it is.
Well, it's Christmas Day, of course.
Well then, Detective Riley, run down to the nearest market and buy the biggest, fattest turkey. No, never mind, Detective Riley.
Detective Potter, we don't have time for a Scrooge redo. Mrs. Claus.
Yes, you can call me by my Christian name, which is Anita.
No!
Anita!
Oh.
That gives you
Claus.
kind of a weird sexiness that I don't like at all.
As Detective Potter mentions her sexiness, Anita Claus becomes shapelier, more womanly than before.
Almost like Gloria Greenwich had done not one season ago.
Oh, Detective Potter, I think she's in our heads. She's getting so hot.
Detective Riley, we have got to stop getting boners on the job.
Detective Potter, I feel that I'm gonna be really naughty, and I'm afraid. I'm so afraid of what happens if I get naughty down here. I don't want to end up like one of those boys and girls. Ugh.
I totally agree. Detective Riley, I want her to check my list 69 times.
Oh, God. Put some coal in my butt. Put it in there, Mrs. Claus. Oh, what am I saying?
Just as Detective Riley and Detective Potter are getting caught in the thralls of passion, Detective Potter has an idea. Detective Riley, you know what? I realize I still have in this big red sack, and I know I'm not supposed to be saying sexual things, but it's called a big red sack. But Detective Riley, I still have my reindeer nip. So Detective Potter reaches into his big red sack and spreads it in a circle around the Bureau Boys. Once he drops the last leaf of reindeer nip, they hear sleigh bells from above. A bunch of reindeers squeeze their way down the laundry chute and surround the Bureau Boys in a protective circle.
It's Santa's old crew. They're still alive.
More importantly, Detective Riley, this reindeer nip actually worked. Something I made actually worked.
All right, Mrs. Claus.
Yes?
It seems... it seems you've been
What's the matter? Is my low-cut top bothering you?
a cleavage, Detective Potter. I can't resist. Mommy want more goo-goo.
Detective
goddamn-
Riley, no. Look into my eyes and talk to her. Look at me. Focus on me. So Detective Potter grabs Detective Riley's head and points it directly at his. The Bureau Boys stare deep into one another's eyes.
Detective Potter.
Yeah.
I still have my candy cane hex in the big red sack.
The candy cane hex? The magical candy cane hex?
The one that can ward off Christmas vampires, perform holiday exorcisms, or summon ghosts of Christmas past.
Detective Riley, I feel like if there's one thing we need, it's a ghost of Christmas past. And that Christmas is the Christmas where I lost my virginity. No, Detective Riley, not that Christmas. We don't need any more hormones into this one.
Our boners are touching.
Detective Riley, we have to think of the least sexy Christmas we've ever had. I mean, once we were old enough to know what sex is. It doesn't count from, like, under the age of 10.
So the boys put their heads together, both dick and cranium to think of a non-sexy Christmas, the most unsexiest Christmas, in order to summon a ghost.
That's a great plan. We're gonna summon the unsexiest ghost to cancel out Mrs. Claus's sexiness.
Obviously, we need to summon the ghost of Santa Claus.
Santa Claus is the least sexy thing I can think about Christmas, Detective Riley.
Yeah, because he'll have, like, spikes through his hands and, blood covering his body.
I just meant even before he was crucified, Detective Riley. Hey, Detective Riley, for your court record, do you want to say on record that the least sexy thing you find about Christmas is elves? Because I think that would read well for a jury.
Yeah, and also, let's get this notarized ASAP so that the courts will accept it.
Good idea, Detective Riley. Okay, so both of us have to think as...
Oh, by the way, as Detective Riley and Detective Potter are having this side conversation, Mrs. Claus is just relaxing in the corner.
Detective Riley, we have to think of the least sexy version of Santa that we can both think of, and if you need inspiration, just look on the wall, and if we both think it hard enough, I think we'll summon the ghost of Santa past.
As the Bureau boys strain to think about crucified Santa,
And also, big, fat, tubby Santa, and perhaps even how he got so tubby. All those late-night pretzels and...
pretzels? You give Santa pretzels? No wonder you don't get good gifts. Cookies and milk, you dimwit.
And how he picks lint from his belly and between his toes when Mrs. Claus is not home.
As the Bureau boys are thinking of these sexless and sexless details about Santa, a blue glowing Santa apparition starts to appear in the middle of the room. But then both the Bureau boys' thoughts are drawn to that conversation with the orderlies about how big of a dick Santa has. For a brief moment, the apparition fades.
Detective Riley, are you thinking about what a big dick Santa has?
I am, and I can't get it out of my head.
That's sex, Detective Riley. We can't be thinking about sex. We just have to focus on the gross.
He's just ramming Mrs. Claus, really pounding away. God, that's hot.
I know, right between her cleavage. I get it, Detective Riley, but we have to put that out of our heads.
So the Bureau boys double down on their concentration, and they push all thoughts of Santa's big throbbing dick out of their minds.
Instead, imagining a tiny shriveled chode, barely a fingernail in size. That'll do the trick.
The apparition in the center of the room grows more opaque and brighter until they see the ghost of Santa Claus.
Santa, are you okay?
I've seen better days.
Santa, I don't know how to tell you this, but you're dead.
Santa tries to touch his own body, stroke his own cock, and there's nothing there, just air.
Santa, no, you're a ghost, Santa. It's weird that your clothes stick to your body in this ghost world, but you can't touch yourself. What a nightmare existence. Santa, are you in hell?
Hell? Yes, I am in hell, for I died an unsaintly death. I was Saint Nicholas after all, but being crucified sent me straight to Krampus's lair.
Santa, that's so weird because arguably the greatest saint of them all, Jesus Christ, was crucified and he went straight to heaven. Are you saying it didn't work, that he died for our sins, Santa?
Well, we can't all be perfect like JC.
Santa, are you sure this isn't about you and the war on Christmas? I mean, Xmas? Because, Santa, I did notice that your cross is not the traditional T shape. It's a X.
Okay. Maybe I've been part of the problem, and I've kept Christ out of Christmas. Sue me, okay? My job is to deliver presents.
Santa, we don't have time to sue you. We have a lot of suits pending with Detective Riley already.
What do you want from me? Wait a minute. I smell old bitch in my midst.
Santa, that's what we need your help for. There's Mrs. Claus. She's, I don't know, enslaved a bunch of elves and is running a chain of orphanages, and I think she means to kill us, Santa Claus.
Well, well, well. If it isn't my old ball and chain, Anita.
Oh, well, if it isn't my old Santa on a stick.
All right, enough of it. Put your diddums away. I couldn't fondle him if I wanted to.
Oh, these old things?
Those fun bags have maintained their vibrancy for decades. But god damn it, woman, you murdered me.
That's right, but you were getting too close. My dear Chris. Defer. Kringle. Christopher. Evan. Kringle. That's right. And you know what happens when I say your name a third time, Christopher, right? So let's not get too hasty.
Damn it, woman! We were supposed to be rehabilitizing these poor elves, giving them a job, a place that they could call home.
Oh, Santa. Rehabilitizing? You mean rehabilitating? That's why, Santa, I had to have you out of the way. I know that you thought that you were running this orphanage. I know that you were going to use these kids as labor to make toys. And I couldn't have it that way, Santa, because for every one of these kids that you plucked from these orphanages and took to the North Pole and enslaved them into making toys, that was one less government grant. That was one less paycheck coming to the orphanage, Santa.
You money-grubbing, elf-eating...
Landlubbing? Help him, Detective Riley.
I'm not a pirate, you fucking idiots.
Damn, Santa.
You were always in it for the money. I was in it for the cheap labor. There's a difference.
When you put cheap right in front of it, it's seems like you're in it for the money too, Christopher.
They were happy. They got 3 squares a day, and a cot, and a hot.
I know all about the 3 squares. Those aren't meals, you just gave them 3 squares.
Well, what are you doing with them? You're just peeling their skins off and making parchment so that you and that little terrible niece of yours can go around hawking some strange...
Detective Riley, I think Santa's gonna have an aneurysm.
Don't you dare talk about our little niece together. Our delightful little niece who I shared my secret formula with all those centuries ago, which is only years in her time, but as you know, is centuries in our time. Isn't that right, Christopher?
That's how our time works, sure.
Santa, real quick question. Is that how you get to so many houses in just one night?
Yes, boy, damn it!
Okay, sorry.
Time moves slower when you're carrying a big sack, and I've got the biggest sack in the world. Anita!
What, Christopher?
You've turned Christmas and our elves into an abomination.
Oh, well, did I? Well, I think the whole abomination, Christopher, was trying to teach everyone that there's magic in the world, that there's hope, that there's a little bit of joy to be had just once a year. Santa, why... Sorry, I didn't mean to call you Santa. Christopher, why can't there be joy year-round? Why can't there be generosity and love and charity year-round? That's what I'm trying to teach these kids at my orphanages, which makes me a much more sympathetic character, I realize.
I don't know where you get off talking about love when you are ruthless and you're a murderer?
I'm a businesswoman. You know what? If a man were doing the exact same things that I've been doing, they'd be like, oh, he's a smart businessman. But in the business world, they're like, oh, she's a bitch. And I don't think that that's okay, Christopher. No.
Anita!
What?
They would go to prison. You'd be in prison and hopefully put to death. They bring back the death penalty just for you. That's how bad you are, okay?
For what? For running a successful franchise of orphanages? For chaining some orphans to the basement of one of those orphanages? Oh, that part? Is it that part?
Anita, I see the ashes spread around this ballroom. You've had another ritual sacrifice.
Well, how am I supposed to keep the book straight without a ritual sacrifice? How am I supposed to make sure that my orderlies are all paid on time? How am I supposed to make sure that the West Wing gets painted and the East Wing has electricity and the South Wing has plumbing? How am I supposed to do all of that, Christopher?
That's what you hire some elves to do for you. They're smart and they work for very little. You don't have to do all this on your own.
How am I supposed to hire those elves without money, Christopher? When you left, or when I made you leave, I thought you had an insurance policy and there was nothing.
The South Pole Insurance Company went belly up years ago because I had no reason to. I thought I was immortal.
I thought I told you 1,000,000 times over to buy from the North Pole Insurance Agency. Why would you want to fly all the way around the globe just to visit your insurance agent?
It was a bargain deal, okay? I was getting a great deal with them. Is it not clear? I'm a cheap man.
Christopher, seeing you again in this blue aura in this light makes me realize what a good team we were.
Oh, God, here we go.
Detective Riley, I think they're going to have a breakthrough.
Yes. Oh my God, this could be our chance.
Do you think they know we're still here?
I am so afraid to leave the care of these reindeers and this magical circle of reindeer catnip. So I don't know if they still know we're here. But I don't know if I want to leave either.
Just to remind you, Detective Riley, I think you still have your elf hat. Okay, they're talking again.
Anita, I was this close to figuring out what was in that cauldron before you hogtied me, dragged me to this basement, tortured me in front of these elves, and then crucified me on that wall.
I know, Christopher. I couldn't have you figure out what was in that cauldron because all that was in that cauldron was the spirit of Christmas. I was making a potion for the spirit of Christmas, Christopher, and I was going to give it to all the elves, and they would see. All of your little servants, your little slaves would see that the spirit of Christmas is not about these material things that they were doing. It wasn't about making toys for all the children of the world. It was about being with each other, spending time, maybe joining a Zoom call and getting together, connecting with your families and friends and loved ones over Christmas. Christopher, that's what it's all about. And somewhere along the line, you lost sight of it. And I've been so buried in the books with the orphanages that I didn't see you lose sight of it.
Family matters.
Are you talking about the show, or
Yes.
did I do that?
You did it for me. You used to, at least.
What?
You used to show me what that show used to show the world. That's about family, coming together, life lessons. Whatever happened to a sitcom that had a point, a purpose, could teach America how to be better to each other. God, if only Bill Cosby wasn't a goddamn rapist. Really, really screwed things up.
Santa? Mrs. Claus?
Yeah, guys?
Detective Riley and I, a couple cases back, had been working on a screenplay that could maybe be adapted to a serial sitcom?
I know this is a long shot, but, you know, you guys got the resources, you've got the connections.
Unlimited labor for the crew?
Detective Potter, I don't think they're listening to us at all.
No, let's... Give me your 30-second pitch, and I want to hear it from Detective Riley. Don't you say a word, Detective Potter, because I won't hear it. Detective Riley, you got this?
Yeah, so it's about these... Okay, so picture this. Zoom in. You got two detectives, and they're riding motorcycles on the strip of Hollywood Boulevard.
As Detective Riley is pitching this pilot, Detective Potter is doing that thing with his thumbs and forefingers where he makes the little framing shot. He's moving around their tiny little circle of reindeer and shooting Detective Riley from different perspectives.
And it all ends when Detective Potter and Riley, surrounded by all the people they saved, and they all look at each other and say, Well, wasn't that nice?
As Detective Riley wraps up his story, another slow clapping begins. It's coming from Anita Claus.
But narrator, it only appears to be Anita Claus. It's actually coming from below Anita Claus's dress. For out from under Anita Claus walks a tiny child. Or what looks like a tiny child.
This reminds me of A Christmas Carol when pestilence and famine were underneath the Ghost of Christmas Futures? Ghost of Christmas Past? Robes? I don't remember.
Narrator, I'm gonna correct you one last time before I slap you silly. It was the Ghost of Christmas Present, and it was beneath his robes, and I believe it was ignorance and want.
Okay, well, I think that I watched the Mickey's Christmas Carol version and they didn't have either one of those characters. Were you about to tell me that pestilence and famine are two of the horses of the apocalypse? Because you're right in that regard.
I was, but you figured it out on your own. Let's get back to the case.
Maybe we should be the detectives. The Bureau boys notice that what has emerged from beneath Mrs. Claus is a small child, a young girl. As she emerges, Mrs. Claus, who apparently was a robot, shuts down.
Oh, Grandpa. Good to see you. You're looking a little bit livelier than you were when we crucified you.
Detective Riley, I know that we haven't done much this entire time, but that is Santa Claus and Anita Claus's granddaughter.
Grandchild.
She's
Yeah.
the one who wrote the recipe, or who wrote her mother's recipe down as her homework assignment that we found by the Rotten Reindeer Ranch.
That's right. But if she's the grandchild, and Mrs. Claus is some kind of automaton, android.
Detective Riley, I'm going to quibble with you right there because she doesn't seem to be an automaton or an android because she needs to be controlled, it seems, by someone within. She's a machine or a robot.
All right, well, this is way over my head.
Well, I guess a robot is maybe, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, okay.
She's not human, Detective Riley.
Papa. Pop-Pop. Old furry beard. I've been controlling Grandma for centuries. Oh, little Susan. That whole time when I was porking Grandma, you were in there?
Detective Riley, the orderlies said that they would have sex all the time, too, because Santa's got that big old D.
And this explains why Mrs. Claus could change her form from fat and ugly to, like, slim and really, really hot.
Yeah, we agree she's super hot, right?
Yeah, oh, yeah. She's super hot. Bazingo.
Just for the record, too, it doesn't count if you're super attracted to a little girl that looks like a super hot woman.
That little girl has to be hundreds and hundreds of years old, right? That's what we're learning right
That's a good point. These people are centuries old. Wait, I think they're explaining it.
I remember when my son, Lawrence...
Of Arabia? Wait, you're the father of Lawrence of Arabia?
Of course I am. I have the biggest sack. Haven't I
Wow.
told you that before?
Yes.
I'm like Genghis Khan.
Are you like Genghis Khan or Lawrence of Arabia? Because
I'm like Genghis Khan. I've impregnated a lot of women, and pretty much everyone's related to me. And so a lot of great, great people are related. And this here, I don't know why I'm explaining to you, you fucking human, but this little girl, she was the daughter of my great son, Lawrence of Arabia.
your great son?
He was a great son.
Oh,
One of the best.
better than Alexander the Great? Because, I mean, it was right in his name. They didn't call him Lawrence of Greatness.
I'm not picking favorites right now between my children, but yes,
Also, Alexander the Great was a child of yours?
yes, he was the
I
first.
tricked you into admitting that.
Oh, these humans, I could crush you, but I'm a good man. I'll deliver your presents if I ever get reinstated in my corporeal body.
You can't crush us. You can't even touch yourself. How can you do anything to us?
Yeah, nan and a boo-boo, you can't jerk off.
So the Bureau boys turn and show their bare buttocks to Santa Claus, who can do absolutely nothing but stare.
Yes, Pop. Yes, I am. Susan, what you don't know about me was that back then I found a lamp with a genie in it. Oh, Pop, I rubbed that lamp. Oh, yes, I did. And I asked for immortality in this body.
Detective Riley, we've got to get some sort of confession out of these two.
This conversation has gone on far too long. What's the end game here? What does Susan want? What's the deal with Santa? How the hell are we gonna get him back? I think I have a plan. I think my elf hat is gonna play a role in it.
So Detective Riley takes out his elf hat and puts it atop his head, just in case.
But for some reason, the elf hat doesn't have an immediate effect on Detective Riley. Perhaps something's missing, or perhaps it's on the wrong head. Grandpa, I've always lived in your shadow, you and Mrs. Claus. So, over the years, I've taught myself mechanical engineering, bioelectrics, and slowly constructed a Mrs. Claus substitute.
Detective Riley, this is not getting us any closer to the resolution of this case. Is that hat doing anything?
No, it's not. It's having no effect. I don't feel any magical powers, and you know I'm very in tune with my magical aura.
Yes. Do you think you have it on the wrong head?
Wait a minute. I'm not an elf. And as you all know, Santa Clauses have elf blood in them.
That's a good point,
Well,
Detective Riley.
I guess there's only one Santa Claus, but he definitely has elf blood in him.
He's eaten a lot of elves.
Yeah. Well, I think secretly because Mrs. Claus was like feeding it to him. We don't know what's going on.
Yeah, and he probably has absorbed something through his skin because he has so much elf blood on his hands.
Right. Okay, here's the plan. I'm gonna flick this cap on to Santa's head.
With your finger?
Yeah. Can you hold it like a football?
Like a football.
for me?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I'll flick it.
Yeah, like paper football. Yes, of course.
So Detective Potter folds the hat up into a little paper football. He holds up his fingers like goalposts, and Detective Riley prepares his finger to kick the hat through the air onto Santa's head.
Pop, I've been cooking bits of Mrs. Claus for you. That's what I've been boiling out there in my cauldron. And you've been eating her until, of course, I had to get rid of you because you were figuring it out.
Okay, Detective Riley.
This is a really fucked up
Really weird.
family squabbles here. I don't even understand where the jealousy, the revenge begins and where the psychopathy ends.
Yes, so what I've gathered, though, Detective Riley, is that Mrs. Claus, who we now know is her granddaughter, whatever it is, whatever her connection is, or just her granddaughter,
Yep.
has been trying to keep this franchise of orphanages up and running. She needed Santa out of the way. And if you remember, she made that potion because she wants to have the world be good, to be a better place. So
Yeah.
this little girl just, I don't know, might need a hug.
Yeah, it's very confusing because she said she wanted the world to be a better place, but she killed her grandmother, has been feeding her to her grandfather.
Wait, she killed her grandmother too? I missed that part.
She just said, yeah, because she's been feeding Mrs. Claus to Mr. Claus.
Well, but that doesn't mean she killed her. It just means she was feeding her corpse to him. You think she killed her too? Should we ask any questions?
I know I'm way too afraid to get involved in this squabble. I think the conjecture between the two of us right now, huddled behind these gigantic reindeer, is enough.
Yes. And you guys are super handsome looking, by the way.
Okay, so we got that part. So that explains the weird smells.
We're the ones who summoned Santa back, so that's on us. That's a big on us.
Oh, we definitely summoned Santa back. Yeah. Because I think this little girl, this fucking
Whoa.
This little girl figured out that Santa was going to get close to her.
You can't say fucking and little girl in the same sentence.
Well, okay, very good. Thank you. And for keeping me, getting me ready for my upcoming court case, which I will win because I was framed and it doesn't even make sense.
You don't need to explain it to me. I'm on your side. Go.
Okay, I'm not a monster.
I know.
Right. So we got that, but there have been elves being made into paper. We know that.
Correct.
And I guess I don't know. It's like they got fucking I'm swearing I have a storm over
I
here.
know.
because
Calm down, Detective Riley.
Detective Potter slaps Detective Riley in the face twice.
Are you okay? Calm down. All we need to know about Detective Riley is how we get the hell out of this situation. Because Santa can't hurt us, but that little girl I'm a little bit scared of. If she can make that huge Mrs. Claus, that huge sexy Mrs. Claus, if she can make that, I'm just worried that she's going to harm us. We just have to get out of here, Detective Riley. I think we've solved this case. We know where the smell was coming from.
Okay, get into formation, and I'm gonna punt this hat.
Okay.
So Detective Potter picks up his hat, folded into the shape of a paper football. Detective Riley winds up his finger. After giving a couple test flicks, he kicks the hat into the air. It spirals through the air, unfolding as it goes and lands perfectly atop Santa's head.
And as it does, the crucified Santa on the wall disappears, the stakes dropping to the floor, along with the cross, of course, that he was crucified on. And there, appearing below the hat, filling in the spiritual body, is the plump, vibrant, healthful body of one Saint Nicholas. Santa Claus. Oh, I'm back, baby.
Santa sees his granddaughter menacing the bureau boys and sees the robot body of his ex-wife, or widow. He grabs his granddaughter and twists off her head like a dandelion. For Santa has been keeping tabs on who's been naughty and who's been nice, even beyond the grave.
Oh, have I been waiting to do that.
Jesus Christ, Santa.
I've had a list of naughty boys and girls who are unnamed, and I've been searching the globe for decades, hundreds of years even, to find them. Turns out my own granddaughter was one of them, and she's been so naughty no amount of coal would do the trick. So I had to decapitate her, and that's on the record.
Oh my God, Santa Claus, you're back.
I'm feeling good, too.
Santa, it's Christmas Day. There's still millions and billions of children around the world that are waiting for gifts from you. Do you think you have time to give them gifts?
You bet your sweet buttocks I got time. In fact, I can rewind time. Me and my trusty reindeer. Let's go!
Santa, I hate to tell you this, but all of your reindeer are dead, but you can have these reindeer that we summoned here to protect us in this circle. You have to promise, though, that you're not going to kill us, and also you're going to give us gifts.
Ho, ho, ho. You boys have been very good. You saved the orphanage. You've helped me come back to life. I've been able to murder my great grandchild, and now my factories can get back up and running.
Okay, Santa, though, you have to make us a promise about those factories. You're not going to use any of the kids or elves from the orphanages that your wife started. We want you to make money off of these orphanages. She must have left them all to you in her will. You have the power to keep these orphanages up and running, and with all that money you make off the orphanages, you don't have to have all this like slave labor. You can pay your elves a living wage, Santa. Maybe give them medical care.
Okay, I'll consider it.
No, I need a verbal yes, Santa.
Ooh, by the contract of you bringing me back to life, I suppose, I will make one concession, and that is to pay my elves fairly, give them a day off or two.
You can give them a bunch of days off. They only really have to work during December.
Oh boy. Oh, you don't understand Christmas, the Christmas
That's
at all.
true.
You don't understand what it's
That's
like. What it's like being in the factory. So shut up.
Sorry.
So I'll give them 2 days off. Here's the deal. We're negotiating. Okay, we're negotiating.
2 days is fine.
I'll give them 2 days. They get fed, and
Good.
And if they break a leg, I won't just take them to the shed and shoot them in the face.
Okay.
I will provide them With some help, I'll get a doctor on staff.
Okay, great. Detective Riley, is that good for you?
Yeah, I didn't want any of that. I just wanted my presents. So as long as I'm getting those, it's all fine with me. I think what Santa's doing is great.
Okay, Santa, it's a deal.
So Detective Potter and Christopher Kringle shake hands, making it a binding, valid contract.
And then Santa flicks off his elf hat and puts on a big red Santa hat with a little white ball on the end of it.
Santa, do you need to borrow this?
Detective Potter offers his big red sack up to Santa. Santa, with a wink of his eye, takes the big sack.
Come on, Dasher, Dancer, Prancer, and Vixen. Let's go, Comet and Cupid and Donner and Blitzen.
Detective Riley, did he say Cupid?
I don't care. I'm serious. I just want my presents. I do not care about anything else right now.
Also, these aren't his reindeer, but they're responding, it seems like.
And let's not forget the greatest reindeer of them all!
Ass?
Down the chute comes the greatest reindeer of all. Ass.
Ass? I thought you were a horse this whole time. No? Okay.
S shakes his head and hitches himself up to Santa's sleigh, which honestly kind of looks like the Bureau Boys' sleigh. I think that maybe Santa has been taking some liberties with personal property.
Goodbye, Bureau Boys. Thanks for bringing me back to life and saving Christmas.
Aren't you gonna say, and to all a good night? I don't even know what time it is.
Why? And we're not the Bureau Boys. I'm Detective Riley. This is Detective Potter.
We're individuals. We're not some weird collective.
We are men. We're grown
men. We've solved several cases now.
But by the time Detective Potter and Riley could register their complaints, Santa was already bursting through the basement floor, out of the orphanage, and into the sky to make Christmas right again.
Detective Riley, I know we can deal with this later, but I feel like we just tried to encourage him to keep the orphanages open, and he just did massive damage to the structure of this orphanage.
Hey, I hope he's got a good insurance policy.
And so Santa was able to make all of his deliveries on that Christmas day, thanks to the Bureau Boys. Thanks to Detective Potter and Detective Riley.
Christmas has been restored, and Santa Claus will return as the great gift giver around the world. Mrs. Claus, however, is dead, and so is Santa's long-lost great-grandchild.
So it's kind of only a matter of time before Santa falls into a deep depression over the loss of his wife and can no longer deliver gifts to children anymore.
This was a case for the seasons. There was a lot that is still confusing, but that's the way it goes sometimes when you're hot on a case.
In real life, sometimes there isn't always a complete satisfaction of all the questions you had. Isn't that right, narrator?
That's right.
But if you enjoyed the case of the Rotten Reindeer Ranch, go to thebureauboys.com to rate the podcast, subscribe, leave a review, and engage with the Bureau Boys on social media. You can leave them clues or suggest what their next case name could be.
And while you're at it, why don't you tell all your friends and family to listen to the Bureau Boys as well? But don't tell the criminals, for the Bureau Boys are coming for them.